Shay Station, Jerry and Jolly. Shay Station, Jerry and Jolly. Riding through the airwaves, bringing you the heat. Come on, pull your band. Now get up out your seat. They're bringing you all things Mets. They're bringing you all things Mets. They're bringing you all things Mets. Now you're listening to Shay Station.
Today is Thursday, February 26th, the 244th episode of Shay Station. Snow is melting. The sun is peeking out. Spring training is finally upon us. Mets baseball back on our TVs. Gary Cohen back in our ears. I know we're still a month away from play. WBC coming up, but the excitement has returned for me. I'm sure it's returned for you as well. My co-host Jerry Blevins, who's down in PSL this past week, getting some interviews, bumping elbows with some people. Jerry, how the heck you doing?
I'm lovely. And yes, baseball is back, man. I'm in full swing. It doesn't really start for me until I'm prepping and packing for spring training. I was only down there for 5 days. But man, baseball's back. We're talking World Baseball Classic. It's just been a great time of year. I'm ready for the warmth to start up.
Yeah, you were down there firsthand. There's a lot of bodies down there, a lot of interesting stories already going on in spring training. We're not too focused on the results. We're more focused on who's making a name for themselves, who's trying out new things, who's at new positions and all that. I think today's episode, we're going to take some time to kind of catch up, go over some headlines that came out in recent weeks, specifically Steve Cohen talking about captaincy in the Mets organization. And I think we want to round out the show by trying to figure out what this 26-man roster will look like come opening day, because there's a lot of interesting candidates, a lot of guys that could make the roster, a lot of guys that might surprise you by not making the roster. This is a funky Mets team with a lot of upside, a potentially low floor if things don't go according to plan. But I think for me, just the general overall sentiment, it really hit me when I was watching spring training games for the first time that, one, this team is so different. That's been kind of the theme of the offseason, this roster overhaul. But it's kind of renewed my excitement for spring training. Like, I feel like I kind of, in years past, I've gone through the motions of spring training a little bit. You know, you saw the same faces. You knew Pete Alonso would be there, Jeff McNeil, Brandon Nimmo, these long, staples of the team. Now there's so many more new faces and new opportunities that it's kind of got me a little bit more glued to my TV screen for exhibition games than I have in, many years at this point.
I think you nailed it. It feels new, fresh, invigorating. There's so many new faces, but there's also, like, the biggest thing for me, like, I'm not a prospect guy. I don't know a ton about the guys, but there's so many high level prospects in camp that I was like walking around looking for. I'm talking a dozen guys that I had to get my eyes on firsthand to see. And that hasn't happened in Mets camp for a long time. There hasn't been like true prospects. I think the last, it was like the Mauricio Beatty Vientos, but even that was like, these guys are young, they have an outside shot. But now, we're going to talk about it, but Carson Benj could be the opening day right fielder, but it's deeper than that. It's Clifford, it's
AJ Ewing,
it's Lambert. There's so many pitchers. There's so many like real high-end talent that I'm like, these guys could make huge impacts, not just on this team, because some of them are knocking on the door or trying to knock the door down. But there's some like on the doorstep ready to go, and it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, last year you kind of had, Jet Williams pop up a little bit. That was fun to see. But it's been a really long time since it's been, I think all the focus really is going on the role players. It's going on the young pitchers that are maybe outside shots to make the rotation, just because it's so fascinating to see how this Mets farm system has developed so much in such short time. even with some of the trades the Mets have made with guys going out. This top 10 prospect list is still very impressive. And basically, all those guys have been turning heads so far in spring training. We've seen Ryan Clifford at first base, as you've mentioned. AJ Ewing hit a ball very hard yesterday. He's been playing center field. Obviously, Carson Benj is the biggest story probably out of the prospect hitters. He went 3 for 3 yesterday in some really impressive at bats, including all of them going to 2 strikes. He had some fun quotes after the game as well. But I want to first turn it to the pitching side of things because you actually got somewhat of a Mets exclusive. You sat down with Christian Scott, Jonah Tong, and Nolan McLean. The social post went out yesterday. As soon as I saw it, I was like, I need to ask him about this. I think the full interview comes out today, but if you want to tease it a little bit, what was the conversation like? Did you get any insight from any of those 3 guys?
I did, and it came about kind of organically. Jeff Goldman and Joe Kraus are SNY producers. I've worked with both of them. They're great. They had this idea of sitting down with those 3 guys, and getting guys in spring training is very difficult. Mm-hmm. They're working, all that. I got to sit down literally at a little picnic table, us 4, with Christian Scott, Jonah Tong, and Nolan McLean. And I just wanted to I wanted to get a taste of their personalities, and I wanted to showcase their personalities to Mets fans. And that's a coin flip, whether you're going to get guys to be open. These 3 were open. You're going to see some personality, some fun. They were joking around with each other a ton. I was really excited with how it turned out. I'm proud of how it turned out. And I love, this is my favorite part of spring training, is sometimes you just get to see a side of guys relaxed, not so, at their locker kind of setting. This was really fun. And each guy, you can see their personality kind of shine in a good way. So I'm really excited for that coming out today.
Yeah, my jealousy was running rampant a little bit because I end up in Arizona every year, which is great for, getting those interviews. But it is exactly what you said. Sometimes these guys are getting work in, they're trying new things, they're honing their craft, and they don't exactly want to, sit down and chat. So when I saw that picture with those 3 guys, Christian Scott I've talked to before, Jonah Tong is known for like his very bubbly personality. I'm very excited to watch that full thing. Speaking of Jonah Tong, I want to talk a little bit specifically about him as we go pitcher by pitcher here. I think a lot of the commentary on Tong last year during his major league time was the stuff is there, but he needs an extra pitch or else he's going to get hit hard. His curveball had a lot of good movement, but it was getting smacked because when you're a 2-pitch starting pitcher, you become predictable and it's hard to make it work. Yesterday, he pitched against the Cardinals, I believe. Might have been the Astros. I might be mistaken there. He has a new pitch. He has a cutter he's been throwing. He's actually throwing it a ton in that outing. He threw it 18 times. Sometimes it looked good. Sometimes it got hit pretty hard. But we're already seeing the early effects of Mets starting pitchers trying out new things, tinkering with things, trying to improve their arsenal. He had some quotes after the game. He said he just wants another off-speed offering. Sometimes it's going to get hit, but that is the whole part of learning it. I'm happy it's happening in spring because at least I can take notes from it and push forward. I feel like every time I see a quote from Jonah Tong, I smile and I nod in agreement. I just really like his mentality about things. But I'm really excited to see him develop this 3rd pitch because I think it really improves his chances of potentially knocking on the door and making this rotation earlier than some people might expect.
He looked really good in the spring that I saw him, and he looked solid yesterday. The cutter is new. He's learning it. It's one of those pitches, especially a cutter. It's a dangerous pitch to develop because what you're trying to do is the ball's coming in and then you're trying to miss the barrel at the end or come into a lefty on their hands. When you're throwing it to a righty, you want it to start kind of on the plate, like outer third, and then break off. That's a dangerous spot because if it backs up, that's extra bases. He gave up a home run on it. So it's a development thing, and Florida's a great place to learn it. You have to have feel for it. Understand if you can get it to be consistent. If he can trust it, that he knows where it's going to go, that it's also always going to go in the direction that he wants to, it'll be a great development. His fastball looks excellent. His changeup is elite. I really like his curveball. I would love him to develop that curveball as his number 3 pitch because I think that high fastball with that elite life, that run, that rise, with that curveball would be unbelievable. And then I think off of that, the changeup, those are my 3. And then the cutter, you can't go wrong with having an extra pitch something simple, a tweak off of his fastball, just a minor manipulation of the ball, something that he can trust, I think that would be great. But I really like where he's at developing. Again, personality wise, I think he had a little bit of a deer in the headlights kind of
Right.
appearance, but he's not naive, and he comes across as kind of an innocent young guy, but I think it's a lot deeper than that. I think he's really smart. I think he understands pitching. I think his understanding of pitching is more advanced than maybe it comes across, and especially for what people think he is. It was a tough open for him in the big leagues, but again, you can learn from that. I think he has a chance to be great, and you don't get to say that very often.
Yeah, I mean, when we measure out what this 26 man is going to look like, rotation spots are going to be probably, I think, the biggest point of where we could end up being wrong because there's just so much competition going into camp this year. But if you're Jonah Tong, 22 years old, fast riser through the minors, you have to have something going for you. And I think it's definitely the brain because I just think he's a meticulous thinker, is really what I get from his interviews and the way he goes about approaching his game. You talked a little bit about electric stuff. You actually mentioned him in your open, which I was happy to hear. Uh, a name that I think a lot of people didn't have on their radar at all, but he's lighting up the radar gun. Ryan Lambert was in conversations because apparently he's pumping 100 on the backfields. Even Carlos Mendoza was talking about him. I doubt he makes the opening day roster, but I just want to ask you: did you get a chance to see him throw firsthand? And what'd you see?
I did, as advertised, man. He's electric, and as good as the bullpen can be, that kind of high velocity, nice, nasty slider
Right.
will find a way onto the field if it's locked in. I don't think he breaks camp. He hasn't had any time at AAA, I believe.
Yeah, you're correct.
He also has high walks. I think his AA, he was like 5.5 plus. That's something that he's going to have to dial in, but the stuff will play in the big leagues now. That's how electric his fastball and slider are. The bullpen is deep. There's probably 6 guys locked in. I would say definitely 5. But those last spots, if you can have some really high end potential back of the bullpen type arms to kind of learn and develop in those 7-8 spot in the bullpen, the low leverage to develop into high leverage. That's something the Mets haven't had a lot of either. It's always been kind of a long guy, kind of a fringe up and down guy, a guy that they'll come in and get 3 innings from and then DFA. Ryan Lambert's not that guy. Ryan Lambert is a guy that could come in, be that last guy in the bullpen, and then in a year and a half, 2 years, he's the closer of the future. Like, it's that electric, and it plays up.
And it's amazing to me because, beyond Lambert, but, guys like Dylan Ross who have been turning heads, Jack Wenninger had a nice start the other day as well. These are 8th round picks, 6th round picks, 13th round picks that are now shooting up the Mets system ever since the new regime came in. So I think we're just going to get more and more of these stories as the years go on, which is really, really cool to see. But yeah, I do agree that it's probably a long shot that you see some of those young guys make the bullpen out of opening day just because they don't have the AAA experience. That kind of leads into the Jonah Tong conversation too, of he never really got a full look at AAA. I think he got like 6 starts maybe. They probably want to get him some more time, some more seasoning there because we have guys on the books like Sean Manaea and Kodai Senga without options who are making big money that should be in this opening day rotation. And we'll see what comes to that as we see them take the mound a little bit more. Let's turn it over to the hitting side of things. And let's keep talking about the young guys, specifically Carson Benj, who, like you said at the top, is one of the more interesting prospect stories out of Mets spring training. He's currently slotted in as the opening day right fielder on the squad. He's got an absolute cannon for an arm. We'll see how the bat develops. I don't know if there's that much pop there yet, but he had some really impressive at-bats. That's kind of what I look for in spring training. Like, what is the quality of your at-bats? Are you making pitchers work? Are you making solid contact? He did it 3 times yesterday, working out of 2 strike counts. Just really professional looking at bats. And that kind of got me excited for him because I wanted to temper my expectations. It's always rare to see these rookies make the opening day roster and make the opening day lineup. The only one I can really remember in recent time was when the Mets made the bold decision to bring Pete Alonso up in 2019 for opening day and have him go that first month and sacrifice that year of control, ended up paying off because Pete Alonso, of course, set the rookie home run record. For Benj, did you get a chance to look at him at all? Did you get a chance to talk to him at all? What's your perception of the young man so far?
Can I just say how strange I think this whole situation is?
How do you mean?
I mean, David Stearns has always kind of been open and honest with the media, but I still find it strange that he's talked up Carson Benj so much.
Right. I think
For a guy that hasn't spent enough time at AAA.
Yeah.
I thought it might have been a leverage thing that he was maybe talking about trading for a guy, like just talking a guy up. That's a lot of pressure to put on a young man.
Oh, yeah.
On a team that's ready to contend. And it feels out of character for Stearns to kind of do that, especially on a team that's veteran laden, that has these World Series aspirations. I just find it very odd, not in a bad way, but I find it very strange that this guy has been handed the opportunity to make that roster publicly.
Right.
This usually is a private conversation or even no conversation outside of that front office coaching staff where they're like, this is his spot to win or to lose. We think this guy is our future. We want to have him on the opening day roster, but that doesn't really come out to us. That's usually an internal one. So I find it very strange that he's been put in this situation. I love how he's handled it in the media. I think the polish of a guy to be like, yeah, this is what's been bestowed upon me. These are the dreams that I've had. I'm working forward to it. I'm working towards it. I've got open ears. I've talked to many of the coaching staff that really like his makeup. I've seen it firsthand. He's a big leaguer. Again, he's really young. And I find if he doesn't make the opening day roster, this is devastating probably to the young man.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting hearing you kind of take that side of it because the consensus I've heard from a lot of Mets fans is just the excitement about Carson Benj, how quick of a riser he was, his plate discipline at AA specifically, 18 walks to 23 strikeouts, the 407 on base, made it all the way to AAA at year's end. He's only 23 years old, as you said. And I think that what you said about the ambiguity that David Stearns usually operates with when it comes to prospects not being applied here, I think is actually a testament to really how much Mets coaching and Mets front office really believes that this kid is going to be the answer. Now, I will say I'm very glad the Mets went out and got themselves a safety net in Mike Tauchman, who I think is of insane value on a minor league deal. The guy had a really nice year, really nice 3 years.
Really, that he came in like he did is shocking with how good his run has been.
Really unbelievable, and it's just nice to have another veteran here, a guy that's can play defense provenly, and he's going to be a nice option in the corner outfield. He was a 2-WAR player last year, and he got a minor league deal. With that being said, I think the Mets understand the upside of Benj is going to be a lot more so than someone like Mike Tauchman, who's very established at this point. Guys like Tyrone Taylor, who you kind of know what you're getting. But that's what spring training is all about. It's kind of about, pumping these guys up and, turning your head towards the future. And Benj, had a really nice day for himself. He'll probably have a bad day here and there. There'll be bumps in the road. And I think it's going to be about how he handles himself and how he handles the media and all that, because there's going to be a lot of attention on him for this entire month, especially when guys go to the WBC. He's going to be getting even more opportunities than he is now. On the position player side of things, he's really the rookie that is front and center. We've seen a little bit of AJ Ewing. We've seen a little bit of Ryan Clifford, but those guys probably won't be making too much noise probably in the first half of the Mets 2026 campaign, if I had to guess. So that kind of leads us more to a veteran discussion about guys at new positions, some injury updates and stuff like that. Obviously, the big one that we kind of chatted a little bit about on the phone yesterday that I'm not worried about, but a lot of people seem to be up in arms about and then going back and forth about. Bashette at third base. He's been the first guy out there every day. Pretty much every day you'll see a clip of him fielding ground balls and getting work in. He's very clearly putting a lot of hard work towards this position shift. He's chatted with Matt Chapman and Nolan Arenado. He said that on the SNY broadcast yesterday. He's made one nice play at third base. He's made one gaff at third base. Overall, what's your read on the Bo Bichette third base situation? Do you have any strong opinions on it so far?
I don't have any strong opinions. I guess I do. He'll be fine.
I think so too.
I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about him defensively playing third base at all. Um, the only thing that would, I think, put a wrinkle in that is if he gets like the yips, if he mentally like has a block. Physically it's there. He has a track record of being able to play shortstop, not elite, but you don't need to have that range, which is where he was lacking, that foot speed laterally. It's a different animal playing third base. It's the hot corner for a reason. The ball flies. It's coming at you at a different rate, but I believe the guy can play some third base, so I'm not worried about it. Obviously, he's got the ability to put the work in. He's not afraid to get dirty, to go out and do it. So it's no surprise to me. I have no worries about him playing at least an average third base.
Yeah, and I think the magnifying glass is a little bit on Bo, partly because of the money, but partly because we haven't seen a lot of the other guys that we're going to expect to be regulars. We haven't seen Francisco Alvarez yet. We're going to see Brett Beatty for the first time this weekend playing first base, apparently. The Mets are slow playing Jorge Polanco and Luis Robert as well. So we've really only seen like BP and live BP clips of those guys. A lot of attention has gone on Bo. Another injury, which I think is the biggest headline of all, Francisco Lindor obviously had the hamate bone injury. We didn't get to have too in-depth a discussion about that, but he's already moving along that process well. He had the stitches in his hands removed. He's going to have, quote, some impact activities in the next 2 to 3 days. I love spring training quotes. They're so vague and weird all the time. But we could see Francisco Lindor with a bat in his hands or a glove on his hand, potentially by next week. Fingers crossed. I'm hoping he'll be ready for opening day. I do think that would be pretty crazy, but the Mets seem to operate like that's a given assumption. So I don't know. I guess I'll do the same.
Yeah, I mean, hamate bone, it's just a removal of the bone and then healing of the skin. Like the little, it's the weirdest thing that it exists. The little bone just gets cracked and they take it out, and then it's just a matter of healing. So the impact means he's going to probably start to be able to have a bat and feel the impact, that kind of thing, the bounce of the ball off the bat, the jarringness, fielding a ground ball, the impact of the ball. I have no worries for him on opening day. I love that they're slow playing Beatty,
Yeah.
Luis Robert. I think their history of injuries and how they are, I think they're going against the grain and above what the players probably wanted. And they're like, hey, man, we just want to make sure that your legs, your hamstrings are in game ready situations. So we're going to pull the reins back a little bit. We're going to slow you down. We're going to make sure that you're in the right spot moving forward. And they're doing their due diligence. They're moving ahead in a way that they seem fit for the health of the player and the team moving forward. I think it's a smart move. It's something that you don't see a lot. I think they did that really well with Nimmo, learning what he needs from a spring training at bat standpoint, because a guy had a history of injuries and he's been a workhorse in the outfield. And so to get that from Brandon Nimmo, they know what they're doing. Shout out to Brian Chiclo, who's their head of their training staff. I like that. I love what they're doing.
Yeah, I think it's probably a new philosophy as well, something that we haven't seen as much in recent years, which is it's nice to see because it also lets us peer into all the prospects that are getting big opportunities and let them have the spotlight early in spring, kind of as it should be. You don't want your big time players taking up all the at bats early on, especially because these guys are so far away from live game action. Some of them are getting ready for the WBC, all that good stuff. Speaking of the WBC, Clay Holmes pitched yesterday, already up to, I think, 57 pitches in his first outing. He's going to be pitching for Team USA. That'll be interesting. Tobias Myers threw 40 pitches as well, which I think was more than I was expecting because he's in the bullpen in my brain. Maybe the Mets are still viewing him as a starting pitching option. There's a lot of starting pitching options. There's just a ton of them, and there's question marks and points of excitement kind of with all of them. So I'm really curious to see when we eventually do this 26-man build, which I think we can probably get to now, what your rotation ends up looking like. I'm trying to map out who I think will be the locks for this roster, and then I carve out the spots that we think will be left over after. So I want to run those by you first, if that's okay. And then we'll start getting some
Can
stuff
we
out.
start with Tobias Myers first?
Absolutely, yeah. What'd you
Yeah,
say?
I think that's the easiest one for me. He's a bullpen guy.
Yeah,
They're going to keep him stretched out because he's valuable that way. He's a multi-inning guy, which they have needed, especially early in the season, to bear those innings that starters aren't stretched out now. But they're going to keep them stretched out in spring because why wouldn't they?
right.
They have a chance to keep the innings high, the pitch number high, because who knows? But barring a whole host of significant injuries, he's a lock for the bullpen for the long guy. He'll play a significant role. He is a great piece in that trade that kind of went under the radar.
Mm.
He will fill a significant role in the bullpen, and I think he'll be successful. I think a lot of the Mets' success will hinge on that role that I think he'll fill really well. But he'll be relied upon early and for multiple innings. So of course they're gonna let him get out there and throw.
The throw into the trade after all. It's gonna be interesting to see how that pans out. I do agree though. The Mets not having that. I always bring it back to this comparison, but not having that Trevor Williams type in the bullpen last year to kind of just put out fires or mop up innings when they need it, I think really hurt them in the long run. And I think that's going to be a piece that they'll definitely have, whether it is Tobias Myers or somebody else this year, just because I think they're probably going to learn from that mistake of we need to have this built in as a part of our 26-man roster at all points. Because if you're, they can't go through the carousel like they did last year. This is essentially, I think, the learning that we gained from 2026. There's a lot of things you can point to as the reason that season fell apart. I think a big one is the fact that there was no stability in the bullpen and you didn't have guys that were reliably giving you innings in the rotation. And if you can find a guy that can be the swing man, because I think a swing man is an important thing for any roster. I think, the Phillies is a bad example because he's a starting pitcher usually, but when they had Ranger Suarez in the postseason, he was their swing man. He can kind of fill any role, and they would win a lot of postseason games because of Ranger Suarez pitching well in that role. So hopefully the Mets can find whoever their next Trevor Williams is, whether it's Tobias Myers or somebody else that's in this, large pool of non-roster invitees.
Agreed.
But he's exciting to watch. I've always really liked his stuff ever since he had that really nice playoff appearance against us, and I'm excited to see him get a little bit more work in as well. Before we do 26 man, I did forget this. Did you have any thoughts on Steve Cohen's comments on the captaincy thing? He kind of put the rumors of Lindor captaincy to bed. I'm sure it was an issue at some point last year with some of the guys. Lindor didn't seem too bothered by it either, but Cohen basically came out and said there will be no captains while I own this team because there will be new identities to this team every year. And every clubhouse needs to find their own footing. But I wanted to ask you as a former player, did you find it strange at all that he came out and said that, or did you think it was normal?
I find the captaincy as a general thought is weird. I mean, how many teams have captains? How many captains have there been in baseball history?
There's a lot of teams that have never had a captain.
I've never played on a team outside of David Wright that had a captain. Ryan Zimmerman, the face of the franchise in DC, wasn't the captain. It's a strange title that comes across when there's a special person, when he's the face of your franchise, when he's there for a long time. I'm glad that he put it to bed. I'll be honest. There was a lot of pressure to get Pete, to Nimmo, to Lindor. There's just too many moving parts. I think the fact that he said that it'll never be under his regime, I think maybe a little bit hyperbole because you never know. But thank you for putting it to bed so we don't have to talk about it anymore. You don't need a captain. A captain doesn't exist. They change every year. These are the guys that you can be a leader without having a C on your shirt. It's just I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm glad we don't have to. You don't need it. It's unnecessary and it's a distraction.
I'm kind of with you in that boat. I definitely was surprised when the quotes came out, but it was one of those things that happens with Steve Cohen a lot where the headline that gets pushed forward is like, uh-oh, what's Steve doing now? And then when I heard him explain it, I was kind of like, yeah, I kind of agree with everything he's saying this is a completely different roster and different clubhouse this year. There's no reason to just assign someone the leader, especially if you really want to do long-term thinking. In 5 years, Lindor might not be here anymore, and Soto's still going to have 10 more years left on his contract. By then, it'll be his team. So naming Lindor captain might make things kind of strange, and there would be like a passing of the torch situation. Maybe Soto doesn't even want that. He just
That's
wants to
it.
be
Like
a
he's your guy, but
right.
he maybe doesn't want that kind of title, and then giving it to someone else will raise up questions like, why isn't it Juan Soto? Why isn't it Lindor?
Right.
It's just you just erase all the nonsense of us talking about it and just move on. And I really, again, Steve Cohen has been he's done a great job of his role,
Mm.
and that's hard to do, especially when he's in the spotlight as much as he is. But that's exactly what he should have done, and it wasn't even. I never even thought about him just putting that to bed. So good for him, and better for the team. So they can just move on and play baseball.
Well, speaking of moving on and playing baseball, let's figure out who will be moving on and playing baseball for the Mets on opening day. I've done a little bit of typing. I've come out and I think that there are, I'm going to comfortably say, 20 locks for this team. And feel free to push back on any of this, but I'm going to read them out to you. You let me know what you think. Hot take, I have Francisco Lindor as a lock to make the roster. I know that's crazy. This is even crazier. I think Juan Soto will be there too. I have Lindor, Soto, Bashette, Polanco. Those guys all get paid big money, and they're going to be the top four in the lineup. I have Beatty on this roster in this lineup in some way. Marcus Semien, big trade, 3 years on the deal. Francisco Alvarez is the catcher. And I have Luis Robert in center field. I feel like the Mets have that very much part of their opening day plan. So those 8 guys I have lined up in the opening day lineup right now. I left the 9 spot open and ambiguous. That would probably be right field, unless Brett Beatty turns out to be a very gifted right fielder. We'll see. Bench spot, the only one I locked up was Luis Torrens. He was a terrific backup catcher. No reason to assume he won't be that again. So that is 9 hitters with 3 bench spots and 1 lineup spot that I left open. Starting rotation, Freddy Peralta, obvious. Nolan McLean, also a lock. Those are the 1 and 2. And then I gave the only confirmed lock, in my opinion, to Clay Holmes, who had a really nice year last year. He's already bulked up in spring training early this year, probably because he's going to pitch in the WBC, but the Mets are not looking at him as a bullpen option for the foreseeable future. If they were, they probably would have geared him up and then came out and said that early on. So I have him in the rotation. I left 2 to maybe 3 spots open there. Bullpen, Devin Williams, Luke Weaver, both got paid money. That's your 8th and 9th inning guys. I have Brooks Raley back there as well, assuming he's healthy and everything's good. Tobias Myers, and I also put Luis Garcia as a lock as well. So that left me with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spots open on the 26-man roster. And I wrote down all the other names that could take those spots. Do you want to start with the hitters or the pitchers, Jerry?
First of all, great job.
Thank you.
I agree.
Nice. There's a lot of names at once.
Literally with everything, except I want to make a point here.
Oh?
And it's kind of been everywhere, and I understand it. But Clay Holmes is your number 2 starter. I don't care.
Oh, wow.
He
that is a hot take.
Dude, he was excellent last year.
Okay.
Excellent. And
I was not expecting that from you.
Nolan McLean might end up being your number 1.
Right.
But to start the season, Clay Holmes is your number 2. He was reliable. He got tired towards the end. Understandably, he threw the most innings ever, but he was still really good at the end of the year. He was the only one that was consistent. He's the number 2 starter for me. That takes a little bit of pressure off of Nolan McLean. There's a reason that Clay Holmes is pitching for Team USA.
Yeah.
The guy's nasty. And he's going to be better this year, I believe. He started to throw that curveball. He started to understand things a little bit. He's manipulating his pitches like he's tinkering. He's got a full year off season after a buildup. I'm expecting an all-star performance from Clay Holmes.
Yeah, you know what? I like that he outlined that, especially like the curveball and the evolving repertoire, because I think part of his evolution as a starter was like focusing on how to get lefties out more as well. You know, when you're a reliever and you're put it in a favorable spot, it's a lot easier to just focus on the right-handed side. Holmes, every time I look at his page, it's just, I get reminded that like, this is an experiment that really worked, especially, and it could get better in the second year. No reason to assume it won't. I think it gets overshadowed because some of the other experiments last year went so poorly, specifically guys like Frankie Montas, that I think Holmes gets overshadowed a little bit because the starting pitching was such a problem for the Mets that when you go up and down the roster and you try and pick out who had the best year of a starting pitcher or just in general from this entire rotation, it is Clay Holmes, really, because Peterson didn't finish the year strong. Senga disappeared. Cannon got hurt. Manaea got hurt. McGill got hurt. Like, it really was Holmes as the beacon. So I think not only is he a lock, I don't mind the argument at all that he could be possibly pitching the second game of the season against his former team, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Interesting storyline.
Thank you. There's another one. I think David Peterson's an absolute lock, not even a question.
So I was going to ask you about that. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, he was coming off. He was an all-star.
Right.
The guy had an incredible first half, and he ran out of gas, and he admitted it. But he's a big league starter. Again, he is the number 4. To me, it's 4 locked spot. It's Peralta, McLean, Holmes, Peterson are the 1, 2, 3, 4.
Here's what always bums me out, but also like gives me a little bit of hope. David Peterson on August 1st, after tossing a quality start against the Giants, 121 innings, 2.83 ERA. That's how good his season was that late into the year. It's just the ending was such a crash that it really, I think, changed our perception, which at one point, for a year and a half, David Peterson was like, holy shit, this guy's a revelation, like a late bloomer who figured it out and has now become an ace level pitcher. You think of the playoff performances in the late season 2024 and first half of 2025, all-star for the first time. That, unfortunately for me, has like dampened a little bit. I think you'd be naive to suggest it hasn't, just from 8 starts to end the year. So I wonder how the Mets go about rationing innings this year. I wonder how they go about splitting time and, IL stints and all that, because is David Peterson a 30 start pitcher? I don't know, because I have one 30 start sample with some poor numbers, but then the year before I have a 21 start sample that is sparkling. So if that's who David Peterson is, fine. Give me those 21 starts for sure.
That's, to me, if the team didn't they had no one else
right
to log innings, they would have, like, the Dodgers would have put him on the IL.
Yep.
Relax. That's what they do with everyone. They would have let him kind of.
They did it with Kershaw last year.
They did it with everyone.
2 months. Yeah.
And he would have been elite. We would have come in and he's their number 3 or something like that. So I get it. I understand it. It was atrocious at the end. It looked like he didn't know how to pitch, but he was floundering and the team needed him, just needed the innings. They had nobody else that could have done it.
Yeah.
And they just needed him to do that. So he's their number 4 for me.
Okay. So then let me ask you this. And I guess we'll just start with the starting rotation then. Do you have the Mets rolling out a 5-man or a 6-man rotation?
I always work under this assumption that they'll all be healthy. You don't know if that's going to be, but all 6 of these guys are healthy. I'm going to say,
sure.
If everyone's healthy, it's a 6-man rotation.
Okay.
And then the 2 guys in Christian Scott and Jonah Tong are starting in AAA.
Okay. I think I probably agree, but it does bum me out. I have Tong definitely in AAA just because I want him to get more time there. I think I'd work on his 4th pitch and get his confidence back, because his confidence was soaring when he first came up, all that. I have no problem with Jonah Tong starting the year there. I am very infatuated with Christian Scott. I like Christian Scott a lot. I liked him a lot before he got hurt. I think because he's been out of our brains for a while, we've forgotten how good this guy is. He was really, the first wrinkle of the Mets farm system doing a 180 and becoming a strength rather than a weakness. And his injury was very untimely, but I still remember that Tampa Bay start, that start against the Braves, and how electric his stuff was. I feel for him because the only version of the Mets he knew was that awful first 2 months of 2024. He never got to enjoy, the winning they did for, a full calendar year. I guess it's really impossible unless there's an injury or a trade, and you're not going to wish an injury, and a trade probably would have already happened. So I tend to agree that it'll probably be Manaea and Senga. Senga's velocity was up. I haven't heard much about Manaea, so I'm still curious where that's at. But I tend to agree that it'll probably be those 2 guys filling out the rotation. And
Christian Scott's coming off of Tommy John.
Right.
So there's an innings thing there. There's a buildup thing there that just has to happen. And he has options. You're not going to option Manaea. He doesn't have it. And neither does Kodai Senga unless he is okay with it like he was last year. Right. All things being equal, they're the odd men out. Unfortunately, again, I'm a huge fan of Christian Scott. he was that first real prospect that came up that had some potential. He was that first rotation prospect since Harvey, DeGrom,
I mean,
Wheeler.
yeah, I wouldn't even put Peterson in that category.
I
So
wouldn't
really, this
either, or
is
McGill.
yeah,
McGill in the big leagues was like his first start opening day was
yeah,
electric, and that kind of shot him up. But for the most part, he was an afterthought. Christian Scott worked his way up, and he
yeah.
was the guy. So I'm rooting for him. I'm a big fan of his. You'll see his personality in the piece that's gonna come out. I'm a fan. He's so competitive, quietly so. He wants to slam the door down. He doesn't want to go back to the minor leagues.
Yeah.
He wants to stay in the big league. Sometimes things are out of your control because of options and all that, but I'm rooting for him, and I think he'll make a really good impact on this team.
Yeah, I mean, my hot take that I don't even know if it is a hot take at all because Scott's 25 and Tong is 22, but I think you see Christian Scott on the Mets roster before you see Jonah Tong this year. If I had to guess, Jonah
That's
Tong
fair.
feels like very much like a second half kind of guy to me.
And I think a lot of it depends on when somebody gets hurt or moved down and who's pitched, that kind of thing. But yeah, they're on equal footing for me.
Yeah,
They're right there. So
getting excited about Mets starting pitching, which is a dangerous game. It's just a lot of options, and I'm getting excited. But I got excited last year too. So
I'm more excited this year by far
yes,
than I was last year.
and
And
I have to believe
came,
the young guys got better. I have to believe that.
yeah, and I truly believe in Clay Holmes. I think he's elite. I think he's an all-star, and I think David Peterson is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
I think he's, a 3.6 ERA guy, which is elite. Like that's really good. Freddy Peralta could be the real number one, and Noel McLean is Cy Young potential. Like it's exciting. Not to mention Jonah Tong, Christian Scott, Santucci, Winninger, Pintaro. Like there's some really high end, but there's 6 guys, but there's really 8 guys that could be in the rotation to start the year.
Noel McLean pitches today, Freddy Peralta tomorrow. That should be excited. Turn your TV screens over to that.
I do want to say one more thing about Freddy Peralta. We kind of we've
haven't
talked
really
about him
much at all.
We talked about him in depth in episodes past. But for him to give up, like he talked about it on set with us for Hot Stove, him not pitching for the DR and the WBC shows his commitment to this Mets team.
Yeah.
It breaks his heart, like him talking about it. He feels like he's letting his country down, but it was a choice that him and his family made for the New York Mets, for his career, for the Mets season. He wants to be around his new teammates, his new coaching staff as much as he can. It truly pains him. He'll watch, but it'll be heartbreaking for him not to be out there with his team for the WBC. It shows you the character of the human and his commitment to the regular season, to the New York Mets. A smart move, the one that I would have been not upset that he pitched in the WBC, but I've been like, man, I really would have liked to have seen him commit. Hat tip to that gentleman. I'm very excited for his season, and I'm rooting for him selfishly because it's the team I cover, the team I root for. But I'm also rooting for him now as a human because of what I've seen him, the type of person, the smile, the family man, the worker. I'm a big fan of his. I'm excited to watch him every 5th day.
Yeah, WBC, I always get complicated feelings because, the Diaz injury was a significant one. I love the WBC as a concept, and it's very fun to watch. I'm excited for the national audience to watch Noel McLean. A lot of people will be watching him for the first time pitching for Team USA. But at the same time, when Peralta said he was bowing out, there was a little sense of relief because, there is an inherent risk that the Mets take on in making that trade. And there's a risk to Peralta's future in participating in the tournament. This is his contract year, obviously, and stuff like that. So I'm glad you brought that up as well, because I think it's something worth talking about.
Absolutely. It is he's getting a lot of heat. I guarantee it from the fans of the DR, from family, from teammates that are playing in it. So it deserves recognition because it's a sacrifice that he's made.
Absolutely. So he will be our ace come opening day. No word yet on who's getting the opening day start. I have to assume it's him. And that'll be really exciting to watch.
I don't
as that
think it's
time
a
comes.
debate.
I don't think it's a debate either. But it'd be cool if it was Nolan McLean. Do you want to do bullpen next? You want to go to the hitters? What do you want to do?
Let's stick with the pitchers again.
Yeah.
So we got Freddy Peralta, Nolan McLean, Clay Holmes, David Peterson, and I think it opens with a six man. I think Manaea and Singa. I think they get innings. Whether because Manaea's shown the ability to come out of the bullpen. Even last year
I
during
wouldn't hate
his
that.
even last year during his poor starts, the first couple innings were usually electric, you
Right.
know, and we're like, he's back, you know, the 2024 version. And he's selfless enough, like he doesn't want to be in the bullpen. But that could be what happens down the road, you know, where they need him. And Singa, what are you going to do with him? You know,
Yeah.
who knows? I don't. I didn't even really get a chance to talk to him in spring, but you can't throw him in AAA to start the year. It's impossible. You can't trade him because nobody is willing to take that risk. And his ceiling is high, so you have to have him. So I think it's a six man to start, and I think it's strategic because again, we talked about all those innings early that the bullpen has to eat and wear, and I think those guys kind of get a chance to do that to where you don't wear out your bullpen.
Yeah, I wonder if we see more piggybacking this year. We saw it when Manaea first came back. We had the Royals game where Holmes started and Manaea closed it, and they both. I think Manaea went like 3 innings, Holmes went 6, and it was really nice to watch it. It was a plan that worked. You mentioned Manaea starting out strong, ERA of 4.15 in his first 3 innings, 8.71 in innings 4 through 6 last year. So seeing is believing as well. And it's tough for these because Manaea and Sanger are such rootable guys. They're such, personable, fun, charismatic guys who
Especially
very-
Manaea.
like Manaea is like the clubhouse darling. All the young guys always talk about their relationships with him. I want to go back to just rooting for this guy. So I'm very much hoping. I know I'm pessimistic, like saying like Scott should get an opportunity in all this. I want Sean Manaea to be good because I want to root for him.
Same.
Yeah.
And if this means anything to you, Gary Apple thinks he might be the nicest human on the planet.
I mean, I think I've had a lot of weird experiences interviewing baseball players. I've gotten big leagued a handful of times. When I did,
Shout out Jacob DeGrom. I love it so much.
that one gets overblown. I don't blame.
I love it. And again, it's DeGrom. I love it.
But when I did the Mets Amazing Day last year, Sean and I like took time after the seminar to just like sit and chat, and that was awesome.
He's great.
He didn't have to do that. He had a very busy.
He's a new father too, so he's got dad strength now. So
that's a factor. People aren't talking about it. They're really not. Who else you got in this bullpen? I got 5 guys there between Williams, Weaver, Rayleigh, Garcia, and Tobias Myers.
Yeah, I think those are the easy locks. Luis Garcia is a guy they targeted. I don't know.
Cheap gas, baby. Cheap gas.
Yeah, exactly. So that he could be, if he doesn't have success, they have arms that they could bring in, but he's a lock. He's one of their guys. Tobias Myers, obviously, because he can pitch multiple innings, is the guy.
Sure.
And I think to piggyback on that, I think that's Huascar Brazoban. I think Brazoban, who does have, strangely, an option left, I believe.
Unbelievably so. He does.
So that is even more in his favor because he can pitch multiple innings and he's had success doing that. I think he's the other guy that's ready to do that. And if he gets worn out, they don't have to release him. So if he throws like a 2 2/3, they don't have to push him through the waivers or anything. So I think he's the other guy for me, unless he has an atrocious spring training, which you can't happen with that stuff. I think he's the other guy that's locked in.
Is there a world where we see Craig Kimbrell in a Mets uniform on opening day?
I'll tell you what, that's the name I have.
I was going to say, I think that's who gets my last spot, which is crazy.
And if we identify 6-man rotation, there's only 7 bullpen arms. So there's 6 guaranteed, I think, with Brazoban. And then what are you going to do? And I think Kimbrell in his second half last year made a change in his arsenal. He doesn't have the electric fastball that he did in his Hall of Fame career. It's sweeper now to go with that knuckle curve. I think he's learned how to be a different style pitcher, and I'm rooting for him. I mean, he looked good in spring. I saw some good swings and misses from him. I'm rooting for him.
I think it would be quite the story. And I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Craig Kimbrell was still heralded as one of the better arms in baseball. I thought it was really interesting, and I agree with him that Gary Cohen was speaking of Craig Kimbrell as like a surefire Hall of Famer. Because I mean, if we're doing the relief pitcher Hall of Fame game, I think he's got as good a case as anybody. His peak was nightmarish to face.
Yeah, I think to me he's a no doubter. Like I know it's a bullpen guy is never a no doubt, but I mean him and Kinley like are guaranteed Hall of Famers to me.
Yeah, they're the
But
next level.
with that saying, Kimbrel, that's the only questionable spot for me.
Yeah,
And they have places to fill that up. I mean, if AJ Minter's not going to start opening day, I think that's 90% sure just because he's coming off.
He's like a month behind or something like that.
Yeah, like a couple of weeks, and they'll slow play that because they need him for the back half. He'll be a guy that comes in, but for now, you got Kimbrel, you've got Adbert Alzolay, who's also in that kind of Kimbrel role where he's on the edge there. But if they wanted to go two lefties, there's a guy named Brian Hudson who's
Tall
6'8".
Jesus.
Throws like slings it from here. He's got a good sweeper, doesn't throw hard, but you've got Lambert, who we talked about, but I don't think it's possible, but he could. I mean, it's not unfeasible. Is that the right word or infeasible?
I think it's infeasible. Let me check.
Infeasible. I don't know. Now my brain just turned off. If Lambert has just an incredible spring training, having a high leverage arm break camp from Double A is not unheard of, but I think it's unlikely. But you have Austin Warren, who pitched really well. You have Dylan Ross. You have Hageman and Waddell, who have shown they can be capable of having multiple inning kind of outings. But the only surefire thing there might be the Kimbrel. I do think it's Kimbrel, but that's wide open.
Unfeasible and infeasible, both words. Crazy.
All right.
Crazy.
I think that's English getting lazy.
Yeah, they got to make a call there.
You got to make a decision.
We got to.
That's like a canceled spelling
With
is either 1L or 2Ls. It's both.
Well, they changed that. It used to be 1L was the way. And
I agree.
Judgment
2Ls
used to
look
not
silly.
have an E in the middle, and now it does because a bunch of people mistyped it.
Which one?
Judgment used to not have an E in the middle. It used to be JUDG meant. Weird.
We get lazy and we just add. We're just like, you can do both.
That's bullshit. We're doing the podcast in Spanish from now on. Let's turn it over to the position player unit. We got 8 guys in the lineup plus Luis Torrens. So that leaves 4 spots for a lot of bodies, specifically a lot of outfielders. Let's start with the toughest question to answer. Jerry, who the hell is playing right field on opening day?
I have to think it's Carson Benj.
Wow.
I do, man. I do. Again, it does because he had 3 hits, but it helps just recently. But it's for me, it's the apart from the hype train, it's the type of at-bats that he puts together. It fits so well into this lineup of the guy doesn't like to strike out. He wants to put pressure on the defense. He wants to make things happen. I like that kind of at bat in the back of the 9th spot or 8, wherever he ends up without that pressure. I like that approach. I think it fits well into this lineup. And if they weren't hyping him up so much, I would think it would be Tauchman. On the other end of the scale, it could be MJ Melendez, who's like always been a top prospect that has crazy power, but swing and miss if you want to go the other side of that. But to me, it's Carson Benj. It would be hard pressed for them to not give him the spot after all of this conversation to try not to crush this guy's confidence. To me, it's his spot.
I will disagree with you. I think it's going to be Mike Tauchman. I think they go the safer route. I think part of my rationale here, and this is stretching a little bit, but last year, Nolan McLean notably was an inning short of he kept his rookie eligibility with an inning to spare.
It was 1 inning.
It was 1 inning. which
Good
means
for
he's
him.
still PPI bonus eligible, meaning if he
All
wins Rookie of the
right.
Year or places high, the Mets will get a draft pick. I wonder if the Mets view Benj in that similar light. If they don't, they might keep him down for that first month or, limit his playing time. With that being said, it kind of is like they have been hyping him up a lot. There's been a lot of opportunities for him. So I'm halfway there, halfway not. I just think Mike Talkman is such a good option, like such a better option than I thought we would have, aside from Carson Benj. And I do think if you have Talkman on the roster, he could be a good bench piece. But if he is starting, there's no reason to have Carson Benj on the bench. He'll probably be at AAA. So that one I'm still not super sold on, but I would probably lean Mike Talkman if I had to put money on it right now. I think we both agree, though, the fourth outfielder will probably be Tyrone Taylor.
I I think he fits the organization so well. I think he
Yeah.
plays great defense. I don't. I think you're right. I like him. I root for him. I could see them moving on though.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
could. I could see Talkman being that guy and letting Benj be there, and Talkman could fill in. You would have to lose Tyrone Taylor, so I think that might be why Talkman doesn't becomes the odd man out. But Talkman's such a better offensive producer.
Yes.
I mean, he had like a 2 WAR season last year in 93 games for the White Sox. He had a hundred, like he's been an OPS over 105, 106, and 112 last year.
That's like
And
hard to do.
It's hard to do, especially in Chicago. And Tyrone Taylor is not good offensively.
Right.
And I love him and I love the fit. So I think he's the guy too. But to me, the window is open for, and they've shown that they're not afraid to move on from guys. Sentimental value doesn't really exist. And I think Tyrone Taylor might be on his way out for Talkman here, even if Carson Benj is the everyday right fielder. Maybe especially if Benj is, so they can put a guy in they know offensively is going to be able to handle it.
Yeah, it really comes down to if the Mets want to carry the extra outfielder, if they want the defense of Tyrone plus the left-handed stick of Talkman plus Benj. I mean, that is an option. They have a bench spot open. It really depends on what happens in the infield as well, because in competition for potentially only one spot on the bench, maybe two, is Mark Vientos, Ronnie Mauricio, and Vidal Brujan. Now, if Francisco Lindor is not ready for opening day, Brujan is probably your shortstop. I don't think the Mets are super comfortable with Mauricio there. If Lindor is ready, I doubt Brujan makes the roster, though he can play basically every position on the diamond if that's what they want to prioritize. I think the real, thorn in the side of the discussion here is what exactly is Mark Vientos at this point? They haven't played him at third base yet. They've played him at first base and DH. He hasn't looked great at first base so far. And they've been playing a lot of different people at first base, including Brett Beatty this weekend, Ryan Clifford already. What do you do with Mark Vientos? Is he a bench bat? Because we've seen it before. If Mark Vientos doesn't get every day at bats, it's really hard for him to get going. When he's at that level, I mean, he's one of the better power hitters in the National League, but we just haven't seen that in a while. Is he a trade candidate? Is he a DFA candidate? Jerry Blevins, your GM of the Mets, what are you doing with Mark Vientos?
Doesn't he also have options?
No, he doesn't.
He's out? Are we sure?
He's out. He's got zero.
Oh, I don't know.
Mauricio has an option, which makes me think he won't make the roster.
Yeah.
Vientos doesn't have an option.
I'll be honest. I like Mauricio over Brujan. I know Vidal Brujan brings a lot to the plate, but he's not very good defensively. It's not like he's a specialist that hasn't stuck. So Torrens obviously is a lock. I like that you nailed that. There's going to be at least one outfield, whether it's Tyrone Taylor, which is probably 90% locked.
Yeah.
If not, I could see a Talkman being there. What is Vientos? Who is he?
I think he's the toughest question on the 26 man, unless there's an injury, and then it becomes easier.
There's just he has no versatility to get. They can't find a way for him to get at bats.
He has the one tool, which is the insane power, but Polanco's playing first. Brett Beatty deserves to be in this lineup, and he said he's willing to play wherever you need him to play. So find him a spot and get him in the lineup, whether that's DH, which I think is a waste of Brett Beatty's skills. But if you need to do it, you do it. And it's not like, Mark can pick up a glove and go play right field. Like that's not really an option either.
So
So
the only thing I can see happening where Vientos gets regular at bats is if Benj doesn't make the team.
right.
You have Beatty playing right field, and Vientos is the DH.
Yeah, maybe.
Or if Polanco can't play first base mysteriously at all defensively, and Vientos is the better glove option over there, which is
I think you're
near.
more likely to see Vientos in right field than that be the case.
And I don't know what to do with him. I'm rooting for a bounce back. It's hard to be sustainable in the big leagues. Who knows what Brett Beatty has? Let's see the spring. I think regardless, I think he breaks camp. I think he's too valuable of a piece. They might trade him towards the end of spring training kind of thing.
That's what's going to happen.
If everybody's healthy and nothing shakes itself out, he's too valuable of a bat and still too high of a prospect for the team not to have value in moving on from him or keeping him on the roster.
I think it's going to, unfortunately, unless there's an injury, which, we keep saying because you can't predict it. But yeah, I mean, if Polanco tweaks his wrist or if Beatty, tweaks his ankle, suddenly Mark Vientos is on the opening day roster very comfortably. If those things don't happen, I think you're looking at a Jeff McNeil type trade where the Mets are going to shop him around. They're probably going to be disappointed by the value, but some team will have a spot for Mark Vientos. I doubt that teams view him as a third baseman option anymore, but there's a lot of bad first basemen in baseball right now getting opening day opportunities. I think Mark Vientos would slot onto one of those teams. It's just weird because the way his perception changed really fast is so it goes to show you how fucking hard baseball is. Excuse my language. It's crazy.
Hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in all of major sports, and it's the hardest thing to do even more consistently. The league makes adjustments. You're a new batter every offseason. You have to figure it all out. So our bench, let's just be, so you have, who do you have in right field? Tauchman?
We'll go with Benj for the sake of this experiment. So we have Benj in the opening day lineup as the right fielder because I do think that's the more fun outcome. That would make the bench Mauricio, Torrens, Tauchman, I think is locks. And then the final spot either goes to Tyrone Taylor or Mark Vientos. And me personally, I would rather have Tyrone Taylor's defense than Mark Vientos' bat. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know.
Wow, it is a hot take. What do you just release or trade?
Trade.
Yeah.
Or waive DFA and hope that he falls back into your system.
Got it.
Yeah.
So they need an infielder. So that's Brujan or Mauricio because Mauricio has options.
The other option is you do Mark and Tyrone and you try and get Tauchman to start the year at AAA, which he can opt out of, but then you might lose him.
Yeah, you would lose him. I still don't know how he didn't get a job.
I know. I think you would absolutely lose him if you tried to reassign him to AAA. I think he's a lock to make this roster.
Who knows? But I think we've got it. There's guys in camp that are making a splash. Like I really like Nick Morabito.
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah.
I'm a big fan. I went and chatted with him. The A's traveling secretary since like 74 is named Mickey Morabito.
Oh, nice.
Legend of the game. And I was like, are you guys related? Because I love Mick. He goes, no, but I've heard that about 10 times. He goes, Simeon and Mania both asked me about it because they came through Oakland.
That's awesome.
I'm rooting for him. MJ Melendez is a potential guy. I think he'll be a depth piece. I think
Christian Pache's looked really good too.
Pache's looked good. Jared Young has had a good run. He did admirably. They signed Ji-Wan Bae.
Yeah.
He's a speed guy.
There's a lot of options, man. There's a lot of competition.
Yeah. So again, the depth is exciting for this team. They have, if anything happens, they have pieces that they could fill and stopgap for a while. So I like that.
We are curious to see how it develops, but that's probably all we can spin ourselves in a circle on for one episode.
I agree.
Been a nice long hour of spring training talk. Look at us, Jerry.
Look we did. And it's episode 244, which randomly I know I'm pretty sure that's how many home runs Soto has in his career. Is it a coincidence? I don't think so.
Let's see. Oh, what a call. What a call by Jerry
I think we just
Blevins.
talked about it randomly in spring training, and I was like, you said episode 244.
That's pretty insane recall.
It's not a coincidence. There's something magical happening.
There's something magical going on. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you listened all the way to the end, you are the best. Leave us a like, subscribe to the channel, or leave us a rating and review on a podcast app that you're listening to. We'd really appreciate it. More spring training content to come, with more news to come, and we are closing in with every passing day on WBC and Mets baseball. Very excited. Very excited. Let's go, Mets.
Sound like you said WNBC.
WNBC in the morning.
Let's go Mets.
Let's go, Mets.
Let's go USA.
Freddy and Jolly.